manifestation, feeling your feelings, psychic awareness, feminine awakening, interdependence, bringing the luxury back into spirituality, the deepest friendships you could ever want, conflict resolution, the healthy masculine, the divine feminine. Welcome to High Havingness. Enjoy your journey. Hello, everybody. I am Alexandria Kenyon. I am an energy healer and a feminine awakening guide. And I am here with a new podcast. High Havingness. And you may have heard me in my last two podcasts, Naked Conversations or Conscious Connection. But this podcast is going to be different because it's going to be focusing on female bodies. And it's going to be focusing on creating space to bring more of what you're wanting into your life. And sometimes when we're making space, we have to clear all of the things that aren't ours that are in the way. So think of this podcast as your space to energetically declutter anything that's in the way from your deepest desires. Because I truly believe, as beings who have chosen to incarnate in female bodies, we are here to experience it all. And that also includes pleasure, ecstasy, joy, play, amusement, all of the higher vibrations that maybe seem scarce in your life right now. So hi, how are you? I'm so excited. I want to tell you a story that I wrote down. So if you see me reading, that's because I did write this down. But I want to tell you a story about how high havingness came to me. So last year I was sitting in my room and I realized it was the nicest home I had ever lived in. I had money in my savings account. I had money in my bank account. I had support. I was getting consciously separated from my husband at the time. We'd been married for 7 years and there was little to no fighting. I mean, honestly, how many people can say that they went through a divorce with dignity and respect and love for each other and that it was easy? And at the end of that, there was still love. It was in that moment, sitting in my bedroom last spring, that I realized that I'm a rich woman. Yeah. I have what I call high havingness to receive the highest timeline available for my growth. I have the highest havingness of all, and that is knowing and trusting my divine self. And I didn't need to earn it. I just simply, but not so simply, needed to trust that it was already there, just to validate it. And so that spring, I was like, okay, I really would like to start to bring in more tools for women to be able to get to that point of resourcing what they want out of this experience. For me, for so long, I went outside of myself to try to find that, really get clear on that within. So it didn't all start out like this. No, absolutely not. If I experienced anything in childhood, it was limitation and pain. My mother was an alcoholic and my father was an avoidant who, started a new family just 1 mile down the road. I lived in Newport Beach, California, but well under the poverty line, like so well. I mean, I feel like the average household income there is like $500K. And we were living on $900 every 2 weeks. My dad paid child support, which went to paying our enormous rent in an attempt to, stay in that space. Put a lot of pressure on my mother. It was not sustainable for her and she tried, but she really did not have a strong inner masculine. So instead of looking at herself, she looked to others to try to heal her. I mean, I can imagine raising 2 children and trying to date and navigate the world in your 30s and having no psychic tools and being a psychic woman. I have a lot of compassion for her. But her drinking and her out of body experiences honestly scarred me like to the bone. And it severed a lot of my trust neurons. And that took a long time and is still taking a long time to rebuild. If I've learned anything from the many, many, many years of psychic training and training in general and somatic training, it's that the people that I trust the most are the most honest people and they're transparent. And I'll let you know right now, I do not have your answers. I have my experience and what feels right for my body. And I also find that when we share from an authentic place, when we share from a place that we're vulnerable, we find ourselves in each other. We find maybe the little golden thread that we've been searching for to stitch our own reality together. And so that's what I do. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm creating this podcast. Yeah. So I got married at 19. Oh, to a man who was stable and protective and in the military and kind, but stubborn as hell. And if you've ever met my ex-husband, Dustin, he has kind eyes. When we met, the only thing that I wanted at 19 was to curl up into a bed and never stop crying. He provided me that sanctuary and that consistency. It was not an easy relationship for either of us. But at the core of it, there was a lot of love. Dustin, he's a good man. I appreciate and value him. And there's also a lot of pain. When we got separated in 2021, a lot of things happened for me in starting to reclaim who I am as a woman and to reclaim that, without there being a masculine counterpart was absolutely wild, honestly. It was a little wild. We'll talk more about that maybe throughout the podcast. But yeah, this July, my divorce was finalized. I had the papers in my hands and I went there. I took a step. But if we go back to 2019, when my feminine awakening began, it was like clearly it's been what, 4 years now since then, like 4 years before any kind of sense of stability would like enter my life again. My mother passed away. She took her life in 2018, and processing that much pain and trying to find myself under it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And realizing that I had to renegotiate every single relationship in my life because I was in agreement to them from a place of scarcity or unconsciousness or fear. And they weren't actually like relationships that were in my highest good, like in that growth. And so at that point of my life, I had very low havingness. I mean, I had a career as a photographer and I had a business and I made multiple six figures, and that was the programming I was running at the time. And that is something that I'm really proud of and also has shadow elements to it as well. But where was me under all of that? That was me in servitude, in support to other women in exchange for money, right? And now I'm sitting in this space and I'm like, okay, like I have to heal. It's 2019. I have to heal. And I remember talking to my husband at the time and I said, I just need 6 months. Like I need time. Like we have the money. I need it. And I'm going to stop. And I remember he was really stressed out about that decision, and there was some pushback, and I just remember I was like, there's no other way than I can. Like that was when I really stepped into feminine receptivity. And though the journey was very, very challenging to get back to myself, I believe it could be easier if I had these tools. Then might have been a little bit easier, but I was still trying to find the tools, the way that felt right for me, the way that worked for me, but trying to, write my own language. If if that, like the second that I took a step on this feminine awakening journey and I said, all right, I hear you, I'm doing it, I'll do it, everything started to align. Yeah, it did. And it was also the most confronting thing ever. I would say feminine awakening is for brave women who accept that invitation to go all the way deep, like all the way deep to the bone, back out, in again, restitch your life. It is painful, but luckily it's your pain. It's nobody else's. So remember, fast forward some mediumship training, a bunch of psychic trainings that really felt like, honestly, the opposite of a military training, but like similar. That's how much intense I came to the training space. I remember I would show up and some of my psychic teachers would be like so impressed by my havingness. And havingness is really the ability to accept, clear, and integrate more of yourself into your body. But my havingness, our scale of, let's say 0 to 100, like how much can I actually have this? I want this, but how much can I have this? How much is this? Am I going to block this or sabotage this, even if it comes in, right? And how much flow do I have with this? How much attachment do I have to it? There's a lot that comes into havingness. It's not quite simply defined in one sentence, but my havingness to receive miracles, that was like interesting to my teachers and myself, this like level of havingness when I come to psychic spaces, that my soul and spirit is ready to do the work. And that was like really exciting and validating for me. There have been so many like miracles along the way. And I often say firmly that I always get what I want. If you've been in a relationship with me, whether that's friendship or partnership, I'm like, I always get what I want. And I don't know if it's like me being a manifestor in human design or the Leo sun with the Scorpio moon combination with the Pisces rising and the ethereal, but like I am bold and blazing towards the things that inspire me, that light my heart up. Yeah. And on the opposite end, on the polar end of that, for many years I didn't manifest on the new moons for so long because one time I wrote down patience. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna be like so devout and ask for a lesson on patience. And I got like 10 lessons on patience that humbled the absolute fuck out of me. So I try to be very clear on what it is I'm asking for and what it is I'm available for at the time, and not try to bring other people's like energy into what I'm mocking up in my life. And so, yeah, I don't say any of this to brag, but more to, activate a blueprint that's inside of you who has the same havingness to heal and to be who you are. If you're listening to this, it's here, it's there, which is very exciting. Just say hello really quickly to your havingness. Sometimes I like to visualize it out in front of me like a little dial, like what's my havingness to be myself today? And I'm sitting at like a cool 80. Don't judge yourself, even if the havingness is 10, there's ways to clear that energetically. And we'll go through that in this podcast. But yeah, and just blow that gauge up when you're done. Okay. So I started this podcast because honestly, I don't care for manifestation culture as it is now. And I'm talking about the manifestation culture that is so fucking intense on thought work. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me as a psychic. Here's why. We're manifesting based on our havingness, and our havingness has energy in it. And so a lot of the thoughts that we experience aren't actually ours. They're foreign energy or outside beings, because our energy, normally, if you take everyone else away from us, is clean, clear, grounded in love. And so whenever I hear like this like very big, intense, like Esther, Jerry Hicks, like manifestation culture that is based on beings, right? I'm just like, and by the way, like if you're listening to Esther Hicks, that's a trance medium, and that's what I am. But very different when you have tools to ground that and you're aware of what's coming through you and you have discernment. Developing the human is just as important as developing the psychic awareness. And that's where I see a lot of things become very nuanced because there's a lack of neutrality. But anyway, we can manifest from every part of our body. Okay. Like every part of our aura, our chakras, our crown, all of that. And so I hear why doing thought work and keeping your thoughts positive is supportive because of the idea that if you maintain a certain vibration, you can raise your havingness. You can, if you're in that vibration, but you can't, the thing about it is there's an energy signature on it. So if you are doing all this thought work, but it's through the energy of punishing yourself because you're not good enough, you're not actually in that vibration. Okay. That's where energy work comes into play. So what's the shadow side of this, right? Like, where am I punishing myself or pushing myself maybe into a more masculine way of being as I'm trying to manifest? And is what I'm trying to manifest what I actually want and in actual alignment with me? Or is it just everybody else's energies, expectations on me as a woman in a body, as somebody trying to build a legacy on this planet? Right. And do I actually want to build a legacy? Or maybe is my experience that I just want to simply incarnate and be a human? There's so much pressure to make something of ourselves as if we're not inherently enough. And that's where I see manifestation culture get really, really weird. So going back, we all have this ability to create. Okay. We're creative beings. When you're in a female body, you have the power to create so much because you can actually create human life. So the energy that is there and present that allows you to create human life can help you create other things. Now, we've lived in a society that doesn't want us to have access to that. So that's a whole nother story that sometimes requires some energy work to get right with that. And honestly, I'm still in the process of that. Still messy, still messy. Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot for your brain. I'm like, okay, here we go. More notes. So let's talk about how people are like using the law of attraction to manifest things. Okay. It's feminine. It's receptivity. It's saying, okay, can you be receptive to this? But it kind of bypasses the actual work on what's limiting you from your receptivity. And if you're in a female body, because you're listening to this, we're naturally magnetic beings. That means that often we can magnetize for other people. So other people tend to plug into our aura and run their mock-ups or what their experiences are through our aura. So that said, I see so many human beings, especially in female bodies, manifest for themselves their dad's stories or their mother's stories or their ancestors' stories of like, oh, you're gonna be like, for me, my ancestors, you're the first woman in the line to be college educated. Like, was that actually mine? I don't know. I mean, sure, sure. I mean, sure. Um, and so we're calling in all this energy for other people, and we're starting to manifest things through our bodies, through our innate natural creation life force energy. And a lot of shit gets in the way of that. Yeah. So, like, for example, let's say you're me and you grew up in Newport Beach, California, and everything is coming at us into our field like pictures. Spirit communicates to us through feeling, through sensation, through pictures, images. Maybe you hear things, maybe you know things, right? These are our psychic senses. My whole life, I've seen this picture, okay? And it's like this white Mercedes. And all the cool girls had this white Mercedes. And so, eventually I'd come to make my own money and blah, blah, blah. Had I manifested a white Mercedes, That would be really cool. And that would validate my manifestation abilities, but it would actually be in alignment with what is in my highest timeline. It's not to say that I don't deserve luxury or a nice car or any of that shit, because fuck that. We deserve whatever we want. It's that so many people are manifesting things that are out of alignment and they're mucking up their whole energy field with it. So then you've manifested something that's really been somebody else's dream, somebody else's desire, and it's not in alignment with you. So it doesn't have the same value, the same meaning. And it just gets really fucking weird. And then you've built a life like me that you're living that doesn't feel like your own. And that was the most fucking humbling thing that's ever happened to me, is that I sat after my mom passed and I realized that the life that I was living was a life based from fear, a life based on doing the opposite of what she did, a life based off of impressing my father. And I had some real fucking intimacy issues. And so the work began. And so I made a mock up. I made a manifestation that was in alignment with myself. And holy shit, did it come through, and it wrecked me, because there was karma to burn off and there was relationship building to do. And we're still doing that one. That might be a lifetime one of being in healthy and balanced relationships. And so, yeah, I have the ability right now, if I really focus my attention on it, we really want to go law of attraction, to look at a picture of a white car and match that picture in my crown chakra, which is what you're really doing if we take it deeper, and manifest a white Mercedes. I don't want it. Don't. My wounded inner child might want it. But also, like, how much better is it to do the energy healing and send her all of this positive energy that's saying, like, you are inherently worthy without that car? Oh, so much better. It's so much more fulfilling. It's harder, but it's so much more fulfilling. And it's a lot easier than we think it is. We don't have to always go through years and years of trauma therapy, though I've been there. Though I literally just had my first therapy session with a really amazing practitioner today, and I'm really excited about it. No shame in therapy. We love it. Sometimes it's as simple as using energy tools, because we're energy. Our whole field, our whole body, everything is all of this energy on different vibrational levels. When it's physical, it's energy that's denser, more combined together. And when it's non-physical, it's energy that's more expanded. It's amazing. Oh my God. And so Hi Havingness, this podcast is really about feminine awakening and the rebuilding of trust in what we know, and one of making mistakes, and of me being your friend rather than a person who knows more than you, because I literally don't know more than you. I know more for me, but not for you. Building capacity, and also, like, really getting clear on our wildest dreams in female bodies. And maybe for the first time ever, we're able to access that. And that's why I think I was so excited. I don't know, that I was so excited to incarnate on this planet, because though there's chaos and war and famine and intensity and pain and karma and all that shit, for the first time in my fucking life, I can talk about being psychic on this podcast and not get burned for it. Though, I mean, like, burning happens in different ways. I don't think people love that I'm openly psychic. I think it triggers them, and that's okay. But I get to be me. And I want you to have that same feeling. I want you to have that feeling. Maybe you're sitting in a space where you're like looking at the things that the world has told you to do, that your parents have told you to do, that your friends have told you to do, that society has told you to do, and you're sitting in your life and you're saying, this isn't mine. And that's fair. There's a way out. There's always a way out. I took that way out. And although sometimes I'm like, damn, would it have been easier to stay with somebody who financially supported me, and I had the business and the life and all the stuff, I'm happier now. I'm more me now. I have the ability to create. It's so beautiful. And create from a place that I want to create, that my soul wants to create. That is something that no one can take away from you. That is high having. So I'm excited to go on this journey. And I have so many podcast episodes planned, and we'll get through them. And the first one I think I'm going to record right after this is going to be on the first manifestation after my separation that went really fucked up, and why, had I ran from it, I wouldn't have stayed on my path. I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to Havingness. It's gonna get real weird. All right, guys. Till next time. You've been listening to Hi Havingness, the podcast. I'm your host, Alexandria Kenyon. If you want to connect with me more, you can visit my website, alexandriakenyon.com, or send me a DM on Instagram, alexandria.kenyon. Enjoy your journey.